So here we have a chapter relating to some of the holy implements in the tabernacle and also dealing with retribution and justice. Leviticus 24 and 1. And the Lord said to Moses, 24 and 2, command the Israelites that they bring to you pure oil from beaten olives for the light of the golden lampstand, to cause a lamp to burn continually. 24 and 3, outside the veil of the testimony, between the holy and the most holy places in the tent of meeting, Aaron shall keep in order from evening to morning before the Lord continually. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. Inside the tabernacle, inside the tent, there are a few items, and one of them is a lampstand. It's a fancy lampstand. It has 7 branches on it, and on the top of each branch there is a place for a light to go and a little basin. And here we have the description of the oil that is to be used to light this menorah. I guess it's the fuel for it. The fuel for the fire is olive oil, and it is to be lit and run continually. A lampstand that is not allowed to go out. I don't know how much oil you get from a single olive, but I wouldn't imagine the amount is that great. So it would take a lot of olives to run this lampstand continually. And this is a mandate that is to go throughout the generations for Aaron's descendants to look after he has passed on. Leviticus 24 and 4. He shall keep the lamps in order upon the lampstand of pure gold before the Lord continually. The lampstand was made of pure gold, so it wouldn't tarnish like silver or some other metals would. But it would still get dirty due to it having fire on it and the ash from the fire. So we have a mandate here to keep the lampstand clean. So if there's any ash that gets on there and kind of makes it look a little scruffy, the priest, he'd have to clean it up and make sure that this lampstand was in good working order and in good condition. It is not just a decoration, it is not just a light source, it is a practical tool and an implement of the tabernacle. Leviticus 24 and 5. And you shall take fine flour and bake 12 cakes with it. 2/10 of an ephod shall be in each cake of the showbread, or bread of presence. 24 and 6. And you shall set them in 2 rows, 6 in a row upon the table of pure gold before the Lord. So now that we have seen the menorah, the lampstand, we're moving on to another object inside the tabernacle, and that's the showbread. But we're going to start by looking at the table. So there's a table that made out of gold, and it has a lip around the outside of it. A lip so that if something is on the table and the table is moved, it wouldn't fall off of the table. A kind of safety measure that way. Because when they move this table around later on, when they're doing their wilderness wandering, the bread is still on the table, and the bread isn't supposed to fall off the table. So that's just how that works. So you have this safety lip on the table. Anyway, we got these loaves made of fine flour, so that's fine ground flour, so like almost like a pastry flour, and really high quality bread, and it's stacked. When it says rows of 6 or 6 in a row, it's referring to them not being end to end, but like a round bread stacked one on top of another. So it's more of a column, 6 loaves high, and there's 2 of these that go on top of this golden table. Leviticus 24 and 7. You shall put pure frankincense in a bowl or spoon beside each row, that it may be with the bread as a memorial portion, an offering to be made by fire to the Lord. 24 and 8. Every Sabbath day Aaron shall set the showbread in order before the Lord. Continually it is on behalf of the Israelites, an everlasting covenant. We see that the showbread is not alone on the table, that there are two dishes on the table that contain frankincense, whether they're bowls or spoons, it doesn't really matter. There could be something even more fancy than that. But frankincense is something we see in a lot of these different offerings that are made to the Lord. It's something that, when burned, will have quite the scent to it. It's a smelly thing, an incense, and God likes it. So that's why frankincense is there, and this is something that is to be used and renewed. And we see that the bread here is also renewed every Sabbath. So that means that new loaves would have to be made and the old ones would have to be dealt with. So that's kind of interesting. Leviticus 24 and 9. And the bread shall be for Aaron and his sons, and they shall eat it in a sacred place. For it is for Aaron a most holy portion of the offering to the Lord, made by fire, a perpetual due to the high priest. So we see that this is a thing that occurs quite often, a weekly event of taking out the old bread and instating new bread. And of course there's 12 loaves of bread representing the 12 tribes of Israel. And the old loaves, they're not thrown out, they're not burnt on the fire. They are consumed by Aaron and his sons. For generations, this is what it's going to be, where they always have a renewing of bread, and the priest will consume the old bread. Keep in mind, too, that this bread here, this will be unleavened bread, so it's probably got a little bit of density to it. It probably doesn't go stale in the same way that leavened bread does, so it's probably still quite delicious even after a week. We also see the restriction that it is to be eaten in a holy place, so not out in the open and not with the people of the city. It is something to be separate and different than other normal breads. This is something that is considered quite holy. And we could look at the consumption of this bread as almost a holy ordinance. Leviticus 24 and 10. Now the son of an Israelite woman, whose father was an Egyptian, went out among the Israelites, and he and a man of Israel quarreled and strove together in the camp. 24:11. The Israelite woman's son blasphemed the name of the Lord and cursed. They brought him to Moses. His mother was Shelomith, the daughter of Dibri of the tribe of Dan. 24:12. And they put him in custody until the will of the Lord might be declared to them. So here we have an event. We have a quarrel. And during this quarrel, we have a blaspheme being committed. We have something that occurred that was not good and not right. And this fella here, this one who has committed this blasphemy, they lock him up. Well, they go get Moses to explain the situation to him so that he is able to communicate to the Lord to render judgment on this event that has occurred here. Leviticus 24:13. And the Lord said to Moses, 24:14. Bring him who has cursed out of the camp, and let all who heard him lay their hands upon his head. Then let all the congregation stone him. What we are seeing here is a form of a trial. God directs Moses to perform this trial. This man here, he is probably shackled, tied up, whatever, restrained. And we see the witnesses, the people that have seen this blasphemy, and they lay their hands on his head as a method of saying that they saw this event. So I don't know if they went by in a line and maybe even had like a verbal cue, put the hand on the head saying, I saw him blaspheme. And then the next person goes through, I saw him blaspheme. I wonder if it was like that, where they went in a line and it was like organized, or if it was like the whole group at once went up to him and they all simultaneously put their hands on his head, but I don't know. However this was done, it was the testimony of the witnesses. There was however many witnesses, the multitude of witnesses, to confirm that this blasphemy did occur. And as a result of the witnesses' testimony, I mean, God obviously knew whether or not this guy did or not beforehand, before doing all this. But in order to make a law fail, he sets the precedent of having witnesses to confirm or deny the events that have occurred. So that's just kind of how this is working out. So anyway, this guy is guilty. He definitely did it. And they sentence him to death, or he is sentenced to death, I should say, and death by stoning. So they're going to throw stones at him till he ceases to live. Leviticus 24:15. And you shall say to the Israelites, whoever curses his God shall bear his sin. 24:16. And he who blasphemes the name of the Lord, he shall surely be put to death, and all the congregation shall certainly stone him, the stranger as well as he who was born in the land shall be put to death when he blasphemes the name of the Lord. Back in the book of Leviticus, during the events that took place on Mount Sinai, we had the stone tablets that had the commandments written on them. And blaspheming the Lord, taking the Lord's name in vain, was certainly on that list. So it is one of the things that God really does not appreciate. And as a result, we have this sentence of death here. And we see that this is something that is not limited to just the Israelites. That if there's a stranger in the land, so if someone is dwelling with the Israelites that isn't an Israelite himself, that he is still under the same law. That this is kind of a universal punishment for anybody that is within their jurisdiction. That if they were to blaspheme the Lord, that they would be put to death. Leviticus 24:17. And he who kills any man shall surely be put to death. This is another rule that was on that list of commandments that Moses wrote on stone. Well, the second copy, I guess Moses wrote. God wrote the first copy. Anyway, the killing of one another is not permitted. And the thing that's interesting, this isn't just if an Israelite kills another Israelite. This would be if an Israelite killed a stranger in the land, or if a stranger in the land killed an Israelite, or a stranger in the land killed another stranger within the jurisdiction of Israel, that he would be sentenced to the law, a life for a life. No murder. Some of this is expanded on later on when we get further in the Bible and events with like manslaughter and what to do in those particular events. But right now we just have the simplicity and principles of the law. Leviticus 24:18. And he who kills a beast shall make it good, beast for beast. 24:19. And if a man causes a blemish or disfigurement on his neighbor, it shall be done to him as he has done. 24:20. Fracture for fracture, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, as he has caused a blemish or disfigurement on a man, so shall it be done to him. 24:21. He who kills a beast shall replace it. He who kills a man shall be put to death. So here we get into some of these principles of retribution, making things right, making things even. So we have seen the idea of retribution before when it came to different events involving animals. And maybe there's an accident that occurs, or maybe it's deliberate, or it's a freak thing. It didn't really make a discernment between them. But if someone like lost their animal, that, you know, if they lost a sheep and you were a sheep person, you could give him one of your sheep to replace the sheep that he lost on your account. or pay the money to buy a sheep to give him a sheep. And it was all just kind of about being made even, to restore that which was lost. And then we get into this next part here when it comes to disfigurement and different events that occur that could cause disfigurement or mutilation in a person, and the punishment was that same mutilation or disfigurement was done to the other person, so that they would be both made the same. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Classic, a retribution. Of course, a life for a life. If this, whatever occurs, kills the person, then that person would be sentenced to death, who was the cause of it. So, kind of neat, kind of interesting. Leviticus 24:22. You shall have the same law for the sojourner among you as for one of your own nationality, for I am the Lord your God. So here we have this idea yet again that nobody is above the law, that it is one law under everyone, that is within the jurisdiction, that they are bound by the rules when they are in the land of Israel with the Israelites. Leviticus 24:23. Moses spoke to the Israelites, and they brought him who had cursed out of the camp, and stoned him with stones. Thus the Israelites did as the Lord commanded Moses. So here we have the conclusion. This is the follow-up of that story. And this man here, this blasphemer, was sentenced to death. I'm sure at this juncture in time, this was a pretty big event. Seeing this scuffle between these two gentlemen escalate to the point of blaspheme. And then we see that person sentenced to death. So it's quite an event, and I'm sure this left a big impression on the Israelites of just how the things are going to be from now on.